Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Global warming.
Global warming.
Global warming.
Global warming.
I've seen many scientific reports in my time, but nothing like this. Today's IPCC report is an atlas of human suffering and a damning indictment of failed climate leadership. With fact upon fact, this report reveals how people and the planet are getting clobbered by climate change.
United Nations reports, "It's now or never to stop climate change." Part 1 of 2. Continue watching to find out more.
Go ahead and make war, cause the devils in hell are so happy for you. They are waiting to give you a big fire to roast yourself in eternity.
¿Cómo está? Caring viewers, that means how are you in Portuguese, the official language of the Azores. My name is Gilma. The compassionate people of the Azores are proud of your noble way of life. By choosing to be vegan, you save countless animal people from the cruelty and suffering caused by the animal people livestock industry. May all beings adopt the compassionate vegan lifestyle to end all animal people suffering. Welcome to part 1 of our 2-part series. United Nations reports, "It's now or never to stop climate change." On April 4, 2022, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, released the third installment of its comprehensive Sixth Assessment Report, or AR6. The April report provided updated information on global warming and global greenhouse gas emissions, as well as on the current progress in emissions mitigation efforts. And the results are alarming. The report shows that between 2010 and 2019, annual global greenhouse gas emissions continued to increase and are now the highest in human history. Consequently, global temperatures continue to rise, causing more frequent and catastrophic climate-related disasters. His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, expressed his deep concern about the study's findings.
I've seen many scientific reports in my time, but nothing like this. Today's IPCC report is an atlas of human suffering and a damning indictment of failed climate leadership. With fact upon fact, this report reveals how people and the planet are getting clobbered by climate change.
According to the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Agency, or NASA, average global temperatures have risen approximately 1.1 degrees Celsius since the pre-industrial era. With this increase, the world is experiencing numerous disastrous consequences. However, His Excellency Antonio Guterres warns that even greater dangers lie ahead if we continue our existing trajectory.
We are on a fast track to climate disaster. Major cities underwater, unprecedented heat waves, terrifying storms, widespread water shortages, the extinction of 1 million species of plants and animals. And this is not fiction or exaggeration. It is what science tells us will result from our current policies. We are on a pathway to global warming of more than double the 1.5 degree limit agreed in Paris.
The report states that we have very little time left to make changes. In fact, scientists say global greenhouse gas emissions must peak before 2025 and then be drastically reduced by 2030. If not, it might be impossible to prevent a climate catastrophe. Helen de Koning, IPCC lead author and professor of social technical innovation and climate change at Eindhoven University of Technology, says, I think the report tells us that we reached the now or never point of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, while the report states that global greenhouse gas emissions must peak before 2025. Some believe that we still have 3 more years before starting to curb emissions. However, this is certainly not the case. As Keisa Konsoning, climate expert and senior political advisor at Greenpeace International, says, we definitely don't have the luxury of letting emissions grow for yet another 3 years. We have 8 years to nearly halve global emissions. That's an enormous task, but still doable, as the IPCC has just reminded us. While the IPCC states that drastic reductions in greenhouse gases are achievable, many are questioning this conclusion because, to date, emissions continue to rise.
Time is almost out. We've got to peak carbon emissions before 2025, says the UN, and then cut them back by at least 43% by the end of 2030. And then we need to take them all the way down to net zero by 2050. It is a tall order, especially given that emissions are currently going up, not down.
Meanwhile, the disastrous effects of global warming are becoming ever more frequent, intense, and destructive. For example, in March 2022, a state of emergency was declared in northern New Zealand when the city of Gisborne received 3 months' worth of rain in just 24 hours. Flood waters washed out bridges and cut through the state highway, cutting off travel to the northern part of the island nation. Meanwhile, India has been suffering from an extended, brutal heat wave, with average April temperatures in northern and central India the highest they have been in 122 years. Crops wilted in the oppressive heat, while millions of people were affected by power shortages as the demand for electricity surged to record levels. On the other side of the world, California, USA continues to suffer from acute water shortages and the threat of more forest fires as the state's extended drought continues. In Sydney, Australia, thousands of people were evacuated in April 2022. When a month's worth of rain fell during a single night, causing widespread flooding and raising concerns about what the future might bring for our planet.
Ongoing and widespread flooding in eastern Australia, where people have lost lives and livelihoods to the rising water. Human-caused climate change is increasing the risk of this kind of event. Now, a dire warning from the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that over 3 billion people, nearly half the planet's population, are living in harm's way because of global warming.
The dairy industry is just as harmful as the meat industry. The Reverend Rabbi Shmuley Yanklowitz, vegan.
We'll take a moment now to pray for world vegan, world peace. The only solution to stop climate change. We'll be back after this message.
Methane and carbon
Release of
dioxide.
methane.
White clouds of methane.
Methane and nitrous oxide.
The factory farming.
Factory farming.
Factory farming is a case.
Factory farming practice.
Big priority is factory farming.
No doubt, these are major challenges.
Welcome back to our show. United Nations reports it's now or never to stop climate change. As we continue to learn about the most recent IPCC climate change report's conclusions. One of the report's key takeaways is that global warming is occurring at a rate much faster than scientists initially estimated. Alok Sharma, president of the 26th UN Climate Change Conference, or COP26, explains what this means for humanity as a whole.
I think it's an incredibly stark warning. It's a grim warning, and I would argue this is another code red for humanity. And what this report says to us is that the impact on lives, on livelihoods and nature are far worse than were originally anticipated. And not only that, but those who are affected the most disproportionately are those who are most vulnerable.
The report concludes that unless we take immediate action, billions of people will be affected by the disastrous effects of global warming. Co-chair of the IPCC, Dr. Deborah Roberts says, "Our report clearly indicates that places where people live and work may cease to exist, that ecosystems and species that we all grown up with and that are central to our cultures and inform our languages may disappear." She added, "So this is really a key moment. Our report points out very clearly. This is the decade of action if we are going to turn things around."
And the UN has produced many reports on climate change, but surely this is the strongest yet.
I think it is. I think what we're seeing here, in a sense, is the UN grabbing the world by the shoulders and shaking it, saying, don't you get it? Time is really running out. You have to act now.
One of the report's conclusions is that agriculture, forestry, and other land use can provide large-scale emissions reductions. Numerous scientific studies have shown that raising livestock is one of the primary causes of climate change, creating more greenhouse gases than all forms of transportation combined. Raising livestock is also the primary cause of deforestation, water pollution, soil degradation, loss of wildlife, and many other environmental problems. Our most gracious Supreme Master Ching Hai often reminds us that the killing of billions of helpless, innocent farm animal people for so-called food is the true underlying cause of global warming. She explains that the only way to save our world is through a global shift to the noble, compassionate vegan lifestyle.
It seems this situation was already announced in many scriptures, such as the Gospel of Peace from Essenes, the Holy Quran, the Bible, and many others mention this critical period. In similar cases in our universe, what determined the ones that were successful?
In any planet at all, if people are well informed on time, they can always take measures against similar calamity by heeding wise counsel and react according to correct advice. All the inhabitants of those planets can still reverse the situation and bring back to life the favorable result that they wish to achieve. Things can always change overnight if people turn and walk in the right direction. We know meat eating, scientifically, physically speaking, is a major cause of our planet's destructive direction. Then we must turn around and walk in the opposite direction. The opposite of meat diet is a vegan, compassionate diet. All the animal people product, all the killing of men or animal people must be stopped if we want to stop climate change. Stop killing and global warming will stop immediately because we turn in that other direction.
All information concerning the scientific evidence of climate change and its solution is in Supreme Master Ching Hai's book, From Crisis to Peace, free for download at crisis2peace.org.
We're deeply grateful to Supreme Master Ching Hai for sharing her profound insights into the real cause of global warming and its straightforward solution, a global shift to the compassionate vegan lifestyle. We pray that everyone quickly heeds your urgent advice to save our world.
You call some animal people beasts because they are vicious and kill other beings to eat. Aren't you the same if you eat meat, whether or not you kill or someone else kills for you to eat?
Benevolent viewers, thank you for being with us today. Please join us again on September 12th for the concluding episode in this series. Coming up next is The Kind Work of the Blue Peony Foundation, Part 1 of 2, right after Noteworthy News. May the Divine guide you toward greater spiritual upliftment and deeper wisdom.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/PE.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/PE.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/PE.
Rancangan kami menawarkan banyak bahasa. Sila kunjungi suprememastertv.com/kehadapan schedule dan suprememastertv.com/kehadapan PE.